life decisions, let's listen to God. That movie last night, I guess, Brother Dennis, you were in there, weren't you?
They need to hand out some tissues.
When I think it was that Mexican said something about, I wish I was rich or something like that, and the wife said, "You are rich."
Yeah.
And that really, which that's not the first time I've thought about it, but
right.
If in 50 years from now I've got a wife that loves me and all my kids love me and are following Jesus, then man,
yeah,
who cares about the bank account?
Right.
So we get to chapter 14, and this is the first war that's recorded in the Bible, and as far as I know, in human history. And pretty interesting little story. Let's just go ahead and read this story. It's in chapter 14. It came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations, that these made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and with Birsha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, and Shemaber, king of Zeboam, and the king of Bela, which is Zor. And all these were joined together in the valley of Siddim, which is the salt sea. 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year came Chedorlaomer. That's a hard one right there.
Call him Cheddar.
Cheddar. And the kings that were with him, and smote the Raphaims in Ashtaroth, Karnaim, and the Zuzims in Ham, and the Ammons in Sheva, Kiriathaim, and the Horites in their Mount Seir unto El Paran, which is by the wilderness. And they returned and came to En-Mishpat, which is Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites that dwelt in Hazazon Tamar. And they went out, and there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboam, and the king of Bela, which is Zor. And they joined battle with them in the valley of Siddim, which with Chedorlaomer, the king of Elam, and with Tidal, king of nations, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar, 4 kings with 5. And the valley of Siddim was full of slime pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell there, and they that remained fled to the mountain. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their victuals, and went their way. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And there came one that had escaped, and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, the brother of Amer, and these were confederate with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. And he divided himself against them, he and his servants, by night, and smote them, and pursued them unto Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot, and his goods, and the women also, and the people. So here you've got, there's about 4 or 5 kings on one side, and then you've got 4 or 5 kings on the other side. And these 4 or 5 kings, they were serving this Cheddar guy. They served him for 12 years. And then finally, I guess they got smart and said, this is ridiculous. Why are we working our tails off for this guy? So they rebelled and said, well, we're just not going to work for you anymore. And that made the guy pretty unhappy, so they had this war. And notice that in verse 10, the valley of Siddim was full of slime pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell there. And they that remained fled to the mountains. So it's a one side pretty much won. And it says they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and their victuals, and they went their way. So they just took everything and left. But it says that they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods and departed. I wonder what's going through Lot's mind right now. And that's the thing. And I keep trying to tell these teens, the decisions we make now will affect where we're at down the road.
Right.
The laws of reaping and sowing. You reap what you sow.
Right.
You reap more than you sow, and you reap after you sow. It happens. And, Lot made a decision, and he's sowing. I wonder if he's starting to realize, boy, did I mess up. But I want to point out something really interesting. It says that one of these guys escaped in verse 13. Who'd he go to? Abram. Following the Lord isn't cool. It's not going to get you the prize in the popularity contest. May not necessarily make you successful. I mean, it's just not, from the world's perspective, following the Lord, you're going to be alone a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
But when chaos happens, when trouble hits, where do they turn to?
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing to me. When I really got serious with my relationship with the Lord, I was about 20 years old. And a lot of my friends in college, we just, not that we didn't like each other anymore, but we just didn't have that much in common anymore.
Right.
We just kind of started growing apart. And, I'm not cool anymore.
Right.
But when something happens in their life, and guess who they came to?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't go to their drinking buddies, because they're drinking, have another beer,
Right.
So this guy came to Abram, and so Abram, he heard his brother was taken captive, and he armed his trained servants born in his own house. Think about that. Abram, here he is, a herdsman, but yet at the same time he had enough wisdom to say, I need to teach some of these men to fight. So he had 318 men. He may have had more, but that's how many he got that were trained, and he took those 318 and took off after them.
That had to be just a few men compared to what he was going up against.
Mm-hmm. Remember Gideon? How many Gideon did it take with him? 300. It just made me think of Gideon. And look what he does. He divided himself against them, he and his servants. So they kind of, divided themselves. They surrounded. Look what happens. By night, he smote them. So apparently Abram had some pretty, some warfare knowledge, because he used some wisdom in this attack, and it says that he brought back everything. Now, I want you to turn to Psalms chapter 76. In just a few verses, we're going to meet this Melchizedek, and the Bible says he's the king of Salem. And there's only 3 places that word Salem is found in the Bible. One's in Genesis, another one's in Genesis, and here we have it in Psalm 76. In Psalm 76 it says, "In Judah is God known, and his name is great in Israel." Why does it say in Judah?